BlundersSports.com.
Sometimes it feels like even when Raj picks the ball up, turns, makes a good throw, we're just not able to handle it. I mean, that there's not a lot more to it than that. And that's hard. It is hard when you're out there and you're battling. We won a big game, yesterday, and you're looking to build off of that. And we had some chances to build off of that today. We got some outcomes we were certainly not looking for. That's for sure.
Thanks a lot for that, Rocco Baldelli. It's Talking Twins. Zolgad, Jake Depew, God bless him, Declan Goff, executive producer. All right. I will set the table for you, Jake Depew, and then you can get off with the topic that you want to start with. The Minnesota Twins, now 13-25. They have lost 9 of 11, and since we last did a Talking Twins, they have won 1 game out of 6. They won on Saturday. They almost lost, but they came back, and Miguel Sano hit a 3-run, wind-aided home run, and they won that game. And what you just saw was manager Rocco Baldelli talking about the latest meltdown on Sunday, where the Twins lost 7-6 in an eminently winnable game against the A's. And I believe, Jake Depew, that you said you actually wanted to start with what we saw yesterday at Target Field.
Yeah, I do, because I had the misfortune of watching that game. And that game really bothered me for a couple of reasons. One, Sano did hit the home run Saturday. Is the season already lost? In my opinion, yes. But it was a moment, right? There haven't been many moments this year. It was a nice moment, and you thought maybe they can build off of this and at least put together a nice little run. They get out to a 4-1 lead on Sunday. Maeda's looking okay. And then the 5th inning hits. Maeda gives up a ton of hard contact on 2 straight pitches. And that leads to one of the worst defensive plays I've seen in a long time, certainly this year. So I don't know, I'm sure you guys were watching the Wild, as you should have been, but there were runners at second and third with 1 out. The Twins had a 1-run lead at that point. It was 4-3. Ball gets hit to Simmons. The infield's in. Simmons comes home, as he should. The runner is dead to rights, right? Elvis Andrus has no chance. Ben Rortvedt, I know he's a rookie, but this is the big leagues. He's known for his defense. I don't know what he was thinking. He runs Andrus back to third base. The runner at second, Canna, had already run to third. So the third base was already occupied. Literally all you have to do is walk Andrus back to the base. This is simple stuff. This is high school. This is middle school stuff. Instead, he throws it to third for no conceivable reason, and then compounds that mistake by not getting out of the way as Andrus turns and runs right into him, because Andrus is a smart player and he knew that he could get the interference play called. So instead of getting a guaranteed out there, they let the tying run score, and they let Canada get to third with 1 out instead of 2. So that's just a horrible play by Rortvedt. I'm sorry. There's just no getting around it. It's a terrible play. Then next batter hits a shallow fly ball to Trevor Larnach, who for some reason doesn't get behind the throw. He fields it flat-footed, and almost as if he didn't expect Canada to tag up and score, and makes a bad throw home. And Smalley commented on it on the broadcast that he caught it flat-footed. That's a smaller play, but another example of the Twins just not converting on plays that they should be converting on, or not giving themselves the best opportunity, at least in Larnach's case. Like, get behind that ball, have some momentum fielding it to throw home. Instead, he fields it totally flat-footed. Then we get to the 9th. Donaldson misses, just flat out misses a perfect throw from Taylor Rogers and would have been a tailor-made double play. I know he's a third baseman, not a shortstop, but that's an easy play to make. He doesn't make it. Still, they have a chance to get out of it. Taylor Rogers gets the strikeout with 1 out and a man on third, but Garver can't block it, and the go-ahead run scores after Simmons had hit a game-tying home run in the previous inning. It was just – it was a disaster. And we've talked about bad luck. That's been the narrative. The Twins have had bad luck. And I agree, they've had a little bit of bad luck this year, but there was no bad luck in that game. There's been no bad luck in a lot of these games where the bullpen's just completely imploded. And they just have to wear this. That game, it was a microcosm of the whole season, just not doing the little things well, not doing the big things well also. But I don't know if they're just disengaged. I don't know if their heads aren't there or what's going on. It's hard to tell because there's no clubhouse access. But that game, to me, was a top 3 worst loss of the year, and that's really saying something because there have been a lot of bad ones. Because it's just they're making these little league mistakes, and so I just think, from the 20,000 foot view, that the whole organization needs to own this, from the front office. And I want to talk more about them, to Rocco and obviously the players and the coaching staff. Like, this is just a complete disaster. I mean, they were picked to win the Central. They're the worst team in baseball. They're the worst team in baseball.
Yeah.
I just,
and they are too.
Yeah. Right.
Like
right.
they deserve it. So let's talk about luck for a second here, because I want to explore that. Because in 2019, where a lot went right, at least until the playoffs against the Yankees, in 2019, Baldelli's mantra was, we control our destiny, we control things, we make our luck either way, and that he almost didn't believe in outside forces, that the forces came from within you and your team. And it worked perfectly, okay? So, let's break down. There's a lot of people with a lot of reasons why the Twins have had bad luck, but let's break down bad luck, okay? Miguel Sano being almost unplayable. I don't care that he hit a wind-aided home run, is not bad luck. That's him. Josh Donaldson clearly looking old and really having problems at third base more and more often now is not bad luck. He's just getting old. So what's the luck? I mean, okay, Buxton's hurt, but guys get hurt. Like, no team, the Dodgers lose guys. Like, there's no team that doesn't get guys hurt. There's no team that doesn't have rough patches in their schedule where it gets difficult at times. What's bad luck? Bad luck would be everybody being hurt. Bad luck is not Mitch Garver now, hits some home runs still, but he's lost a lot of times. Miguel Sano is lost. Jake Cave's out. Okay, Jake Cave's out. So, I guess I would like to know, what do we consider bad luck, and how is the Twins' bad luck any different than a normal team that has to face adversity? And again, go back to 2019. What I'm saying is what Rocco would say back then. So you just stink. Let's just accept this. This team is a massive right now failure. It's not improving. You're not good. Your starting pitching is disappointing. Kenta Maeda, I don't know if it's the groin problem or if it's just he's not as good, but Kenta Maeda has an ERA now of over 5. Jose Barrios will never be a true ace. I think he's solid at times for sure. But the Twins on Saturday, Jake, were celebrating that start like it was some great start. It was okay, but it was just okay. The bullpen has blown up, but that's their fault. They retooled it, I'm sure that the White Sox saw Alex Colomé get a big contract on the Twins and thought, oh, that's awesome. That's great, because we know that he's fried. So, this whole luck thing, and yeah, it's sports, but this is a lot of your own problems that you have to fix. And this is what frustrates me the most right now. And I don't know if you would agree with this or not, but it certainly might allow you to get to your point about the front office here. Do you see anybody who has a semblance of an answer? Because I don't. I don't see anybody who has a semblance of, oh, holy cow, this has to be addressed. They just continue to show up at the ballpark and lose games, and it's like, oh, we just lost again. There doesn't seem to be any internal grinding of the gears to at least acknowledge, at least in the disaster of what was it, 2016? At least back then, Jim Pohlad, of all people, told my buddy Chip Scoggins, this is a total system failure, an acknowledgement of what it was. This seems to be a whole thing. I think the last quote I saw, Jake, was Thad Levine basically saying, well, we are really surprised by this. Okay, so am I. Are you going to do anything about it? So, that's where I don't understand. A lot of these problems are their fault. And the fixes seem to be to grab their heads right now and be like, didn't see this coming. What should we do? You're paid to know what to do. Not saying that you can turn it around. I'm not saying that you're going to make the playoffs. You are not. But this feeble reaction to we suck is, oh my God.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would like to see a little bit more accountability from the front office and maybe at times from Rocco, but especially the front office. I said this last week, like, you need to hold a presser or talk to the media and say, this is unacceptable, because it is unacceptable. They built this team to win a World Series this year, and they literally have the worst record in baseball. Like, you have to acknowledge reality, and the fact is they built a bullpen that is really, really bad. I mean, it's really bad. And, this organization likes to talk about depth and how much depth they have. There are no real options at AAA right now. They have guys that they could call up, but there is not, a young arm, a Brusdar Graterol type who's waiting in the wings, and ready to take the 8th inning and lock it down, So the depth is not there. They have to make this work with Hansel Robles, who they signed in the offseason, and after a very bad 2020 has been, I'd say, mediocre this year. Rogers, honestly, he's been okay. He hasn't been spectacular. Duffy's velo's down, and that's led to him being much more like the 2018 Tyler Duffy.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we know about Colomé. But, so they put them in this situation. They didn't find good options in the pen, and they didn't stack the minor leagues with, there are no prospects ready to go. So, I mean, this is on the front office. Like, the bullpen has blown so many games. So I saw a stat, I retweeted this, Baseball Reference tweeted this out. The Twins to this date have allowed 68% of inherited runners to score. 68%. The next highest in baseball history is the 1956 Red Sox at 54%. So they're on track to shatter. And wow. I understand that this will come back down to earth a little bit, but they're on track to shatter the record for inherited runners scored. Yeah. It's been a disaster. And, I do have to say, we've been talking about, are the Twins going to, fire a hitting coach the way the Mets did with Chili Davis? Honestly, and I'm not advocating for firing anyone right now, because I think those are just excuses. It's just throwing somebody under the bus to appease the fan base. But if you are going to go down that route, like, why don't we talk about Wes Johnson? I mean, the pitching staff has been awful. The bullpen's been awful, and the starting rotation has been bad too. Shoemaker was bad, or has been bad. Happ has been okay. Maeda's been really bad. Like, I don't understand why he isn't getting more criticism. Again, I'm not saying fire him, but like, he should be getting heat right now, because the entire staff, from starters all the way down to the end of the bullpen, really they've all struggled. Yes. So there's a lot of blame to go around. I think the front office for sure is number one on that list. Obviously, the players aren't executing either, but there's just a lot of blame to go around in a lot of different areas. That's what happens when you're 13-25 after building a team that you think is ready to win the World Series.
And this might be slightly easier to accept. Not easy, but easier to accept, okay? If there were people, especially starting pitchers or pitchers, period, in the pipeline who were coming up and could step in. And I'm not saying they'd be perfect yet, but they would give you hope for 2022, right? And here's a really weird thing, and I guess now I'm just flat out confused. When you go back through the last 2 years now, so 2020 and 21, Jake, and you see that Derek Falvey came from a franchise that does nothing but develop young pitching. Like, it's incredible. And I don't think anybody was expecting him to take that blueprint and copy it exactly, because it's probably very difficult. But I think there was some hope that some of it could be copied here, and that right now you would have some young arms that were Falvey's guys coming through, okay? Barrios is not his. He traded for Kenta, and it was a very good trade in 2020. It's not been good in 2021. But the last 2 years, here's what really gets me. You have had, at various times in your rotation, Rich Hill, God bless him, but he's my age, and Homer Bailey. And this year, they've been replaced by J. Happ and Shoemaker. And, like, you look in St. Paul now. It's right down the street. Drive down 94, and you go look at that, at the pitching there, starters there. There ain't no Bieber. There ain't no Plesac. There ain't no Savali. There's none of that. So, it would help my state of mind with this baseball team if we could say it's going to be a bad year, just a bad year. But wait, but you can't say that. And I think we talked about this a show or two ago. Derek Falvey is not in his second year here. So like these guys should be coming up right around now. And in fact, with how bad this team is, it'd be very nice to plug them in, let's say in July or August to start to see them. As far as I know, they don't exist.
Yeah. So we brought that up. We talked about that last show. And I think that's the number one criticism I have of Falvey. There is no real pitching pipeline right now. They've got Balazovic and Duran, who are legitimate prospects. Right now, they're both hurt. We could see those guys, especially Duran, in the second half, and maybe he'll pan out. And then they've got some guys at the lower levels, Cole Sands, Josh Winder, and a few other guys who could pan out. But we're in year 5 now, and they haven't developed really anyone other than Duffy and Rogers, and they've gotten rid of really good pitchers, specifically Ryan Presley and Nick Anderson, who, as I've talked about several times on the podcast, they just needed to give him a 40-man spot, and they wouldn't do it. So the results have been bad with pitching development. I'm sorry. There's no evidence really to the contrary to refute that. There's just nobody's come up and really dominated again, other than Rogers and Duffy to some extent. This needs to get fixed. It needs to get fixed pretty quickly. They've had 5 years. They've had plenty of drafts now. They've had time to develop guys, and something is going wrong. It's hard to diagnose exactly what it is, but all of these guys that they have in their system, and by the way, Huascar Inoa is another guy that they got rid of. But all these guys that they've had in their system just have so far not panned out. Maybe that'll change with Balazovic and Duran, but it's not good right now, because that's what Falvey was hired to do, and he hasn't done it. Yeah.
And you keep signing these graybeards. That's the thing too.
To.
I know, but I mean, that's not the solution. That's not Rich Hill is going to be a 1-year guy. Homer Bailey, same thing. Happ is probably going to be traded. Pineda is probably going to be traded. And so, like, the whole hope that they could develop a pitching pipeline and then occasionally go sign position players now is sort of blown up, and it's not going to end in 2022 or 23 at the rate that they're currently going. Hey, in the notes, tell us the story about Sano and Cruz, because I think this is a very enlightening. I did not hear this. It's a very intriguing piece of information that I don't think should be dismissed.
Yeah, so this is really interesting. I don't know that this is reported anywhere, but Audra asked a question to Rocco, I believe it was yesterday, and she basically said that before Saturday's game, Miguel Sano went to Nelson Cruz's house and basically worked with Cruz and maybe some of the people that are around Cruz on his swing. And I just thought that was interesting because, why is he not going to Edgar Varela or Rudy Hernandez? Why is he not getting help? Why does he feel like Cruz is about? And look, Nelson Cruz is a smart guy. He obviously knows hitting. He could be a coach if he wants to. But it is interesting to me that he chooses to go to Cruz rather than the coaching staff. And I'm sure he works with the coaching staff too. But I think that's something that should be explored more, because it suggests at least maybe that there's some lack of confidence in the coaching staff. And Rocco, he basically just said, I heard that. And, nothing's off limits to try to get better. I felt like he was maybe a little bit annoyed with the question, or annoyed that he had to talk about that.
Good for Audra.
Yeah, good for Audra. Absolutely. It was a tough question and a fair question.
That's a great question.
I don't know where she got that, but it was a great question. And I thought it was, maybe it's nothing. Maybe he is working with the coaches and just decided to reach out to Cruz. But
he went to his house. But he went to his house. Like, yes. It'd be one thing if I worked with him in the cage at Target Field, then I think it'd be like, okay, I sort of get that.
Right.
But like if he went to, if that's, and look, I know that they're friends and they're close, but I'm with you. Like when you're bypassing your coaches to go have a teammate help you at his home, that says to me that you're so broken and you don't think that the people who are hired to fix you can fix you, which can't be completely ignored or dismissed.
And what does it say? Maybe it's just coincidence. It probably is. But what does it say that he's had 2 of his best games of the year immediately after going and working with Cruz? That just adds a little bit more evidence to the idea that maybe he, trusts Cruz more than the coaching staff. Again, this is all speculation, but I don't think she would have asked that if she didn't think it was interesting and worth, diving into a little bit more. I think that's an unusual move for a player to make, and so I don't know. I don't know what to make of that other than it suggests that there are some things going on in that clubhouse behind the scenes that we don't get to see because we don't have access that are, maybe not ideal.
Sano is incredibly, save for the home run on Saturday, is incredibly lost at this point in time too. So I'd love to know what the Twins' internal take or feeling is about him right now, because I will say this. When he hit that ball off, was it Jake Diekman on Saturday, he thought he popped up. And he put his bat down and started to sort of jog to first base. And it got caught in the wind and it kept carrying. And basically, I think hit off the top of that flower potted area in right field. But I think he thought he had flown out to the warning track. And, it's great that he was excited. And I get that. And I'm not trying to be a buzzkill for him. But the reaction like, oh, this might be it. This might be. Do you know how much more we have to see before anybody can say, oh my God, he's back, or he's a semblance of being playable? So I thought the reaction, I sort of get it because the team's been so bad, but I also thought it lacked a level of acknowledgement of the situation too from especially Rocco, because he's like, well, something like this can turn you around. No, it can't. No, it's not going to. And then your explanation of what transpired on Sunday is why this team is so bad. It's disorganized right now. Like, you literally went through a series of plays that should be made starting at Little League or Legion Ball, and they didn't make them. And they sabotaged themselves. And the other thing that was, to me, especially when I went to the game on Saturday, Jake, that was enlightening to watch was this. The Oakland A's are not a great baseball team. Like, they are not filled with talented players. They're good players. They're really good players, but it's not the Yankees. They haven't signed a bunch of big names. They are a largely unknown team, partially because they play late at night in the East Coast and partially because they're in Oakland. But you know what they are? They're incredibly smart and they are incredibly athletic. And they get the most out of everything. I mean, their defense, Matt Chapman at third, is a delight to watch. They're solid in center field. They're solid in the outfield, I think, overall for the most part. My point being is there is no reason why the Twins can't be the A's, and they are so far from that right now. And I'm just talking about the organizational philosophy of looking like you have a clue.
Yeah, they execute really well. They remind me a lot of those Twins teams, the 2002, 3, 4 teams, and then all the way going through to 8 and 9. Those teams didn't have they weren't overwhelmingly talented. I mean, they had good players, certainly, but they did the little things right. And that became a cliche later on with the organization. But I think they did. I think they played really good defense. They did situational hitting really well. They executed. And that's what the A's remind me of. And the Twins are just polar opposites. And 0-7 now in extras, I believe.
Yes.
That's a perfect example of just not executing when it matters most. And, their average with RISP is very poor. They have not done the little things well. They haven't done the big things well either, but they haven't done the little things well. Those little plays that can shift the game, they've consistently not made those plays. And I don't know if that's lack of preparation, if it's coaching, if it's just the players not performing. I don't know what it is, but it's been a pattern throughout 6 weeks now. This is no longer a tiny sample size. They've consistently not done well when the game is on the line. And like you said, you see the exact opposite of that with the A's and with the White Sox, who are in town starting tonight.
I am glad that you brought up RISP because I've got some handwritten statistics right here, Jake Depew.
Let's see them.
Last eight games right here. So since May the 7th, the Minnesota Twins with runners in scoring position, and I mean, this is mind-boggling. With runners in scoring position in those 8 games, they are 17 for 87. That is a 195 average. And here's the scariest part. On May 12th against the White Sox in Chicago, they went 5 for 12. Let me go through the 7 games outside of that game, because 5 for 12 is fine.
Yeah.
3 for 14, 1 for 14, 2 for 10, 0 for 10, 1 for 6, 3 for 11 on Saturday when they won, and 2 for 10 on Sunday. They have left in those 8 games a total of 75 guys on base, 9.4 runners per game left on base. How's that for not doing anything in the clutch?
Right. And I mean, I suppose you could take the optimistic view and say this offense isn't as bad as it seems because they're not executing with runners in scoring position. But, I don't look at it that way. I mean, I'm a pessimistic guy, so of course I'm not going to look at it that way. But if you're consistently not executing in the most important spots, and again, like you just pointed out, like I said, the sample size is large enough now that this isn't just fluky anymore. I mean, maybe it'll stabilize as we go on through the season. It probably will to some extent, but this has cost them a lot of games. And when you combine that with the ridiculous amount of inherited runners scored by the bullpen, they haven't come through at least in the case of the bullpen, an historic rate when there's on a lot to get those guys in on both sides of the ball. They just haven't executed, and the defense has been bad in those spots too, as we saw yesterday. So it's just hard to know who's to blame. Like, is this strictly the players? Like, I don't know how you guys feel about, like, is it just the players not executing, or is there something deeper at play here? Is it maybe a clubhouse issue? Like, what do you think? How would you diagnose this?
The bullpen stunk the bullpen has been bad. That's Falvey and Levine's fault, because they just completely misjudged things. And Colomé, he was, and I know that he has been brought in less pressure situations of late, and he's done better. But that being said, he blew games when they desperately needed to win games and end losing streaks, and he had that opportunity, and he couldn't do that. You know what's one of my biggest personal surprises? Just like I thought it was going to be really good, and it hasn't been. Defense, fielding. Mm-hmm. This was supposed to be Andrelton Simmons was here at shortstop, and, I thought great signing. I mean, the guy is a Gold Glove shortstop. Donaldson was going to be solid. It was going to allow Polanco to move off shortstop, which was going to help. I don't think Sano's great, but Sano at first base, he's not a disaster. I really thought the defense was going to be just airtight. Like, I thought defensively that they would be a semblance far more of what I saw from the A's. And they're not good defensively. Like, no. They're just not that good. And I know it always goes back to, well, if Buxton's playing, well, that is true. But anybody who thinks that Buxton is going to play a lot by 2021 is smoking something that I definitely want, because Byron Buxton's never going to be playing a ton. It's just not feasible. So, like, don't give me, well, if Buxton's playing, and Buxton being out is not bad luck, because he's always out.
Yeah.
Like, don't count on him playing. That's a you problem, not a me problem.
Yeah, so Donaldson really has been fairly mediocre. I mean, I don't know exactly what the advanced metrics say on him, but there have been a number of plays, and yesterday was obviously the biggest example that he hasn't made. And there was also kind of a soft grounder where it looked like maybe he could have gotten an out, I believe, when Thielbar was on the mound, and maybe the 7th that he didn't make. He certainly is. I still trust him as an above average defender, but he hasn't been that spectacular Gold Glove level defender that I thought he would be. And even Simmons, I do still love watching him on defense, and he is a great defensive player, but he's had a number of throws that have been in the dirt. Some have been scooped, some haven't. He made the big error, I believe, on opening day in Milwaukee, where he didn't field the throw that cost them.
Personal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he's still been certainly well above average defensively, but he hasn't been that spectacular guy consistently. And just while we're on Simmons, do you think it makes sense to trade him now as opposed to waiting until July 30th, the July 30th deadline? Because in my view, if you have a taker for him who's willing to take on that contract, trade him now Save about, he was signed for what, 10.5 million, I believe. So you'd save, maybe 7 or 8 million, because you're going to need that money. They're going to lose money this year because the projected attendance, or what they were projecting, I don't think is going to come to fruition based on how the team is doing. So they're going to need that money for 2022. But I also think we need to see what Nick Gordon can do. He's doing well in AAA. He had a great debut. Now is the time with the losing team to plug him in at shortstop and see if he can perform, in the major, and see if he can stay healthy, because that's been an issue for him throughout the minors. So in my view, I would not wait until the end of July to trade Simmons. If there's a taker, I would get rid of him now, even if the return isn't much. If they take on his contract, I would do it. And
I think in his case, because he is so good in the field, I think the return is going to be the return, if that makes sense. I don't think he's like a pitcher where you walk him up to the deadline and then make a potential killing or get more. Yeah. I think that if you trade him now, you're probably going to get the same that if you wait till July 30th or the 31st. So yeah, that's fine with me. And I'm with you. That's the one thing I agree completely. I want to see when Kirilloff is back and Larnach is playing now, they need to play all of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think I said this to you last week. Quit with this. Well, we'll get Astadia in today because he might help us. I don't care. You are getting to the point now where I don't care about that. What you need to do is get any of your prospects who is remotely ready to play in the big leagues experience up here.
Exactly.
Kirilloff plays. If Sano sits, I also don't care. If he plays left and Larnach plays right and Kepler sits, I don't care if Buxton is playing. But yeah, get Gordon here, get guys who might be part of your future, not pluggable parts that Rocco likes. Get them experience. That is the only good that can come from this disaster.
That's exactly right. And they have the one positive, if you want to call it a positive, of starting this badly is they don't have to wait until the end of July to do these things. They can plug these guys in now and give them almost a full season of work. So yeah, to your point, I mean, Larnach, I think he will play every day. Kirilloff, he still seems like he's a couple weeks away, and surgery is still an option. There's a possibility right. we may not see him much the rest of the year. I think he's going to try to play through it, but it's not a certainty. But definitely Larnach and definitely Gordon. You got to get Gordon up there. I mean, if he's finally healthy and has figured out these GI issues that he had, I know he's put on weight. He was a number 5, number 6 overall pick. He was a top prospect for a long time. He's just entering his prime now. They could still maybe get something out of Gordon. They need to see. And there's just no reason to trot Simmons out there every day anymore. He's a veteran guy who helps a winning team, but doesn't do anything for you on a 1-year deal if you're 13-25. So they should be entertaining offers for him right now.
In your mind, are there any young pitchers that they can bring up throughout the course of this season to get them work, to get them prepared?
So Balazovic and Duran for sure.
And Duran was hurt, right?
They're both currently
hurt. Yeah.
Yep. I think Duran is closer than Balazovic, but those two guys for sure. A guy named Josh, I believe it's Winder, not Winder. I believe it's Josh Winder, is at AA. He's a legitimate prospect. We could see him by the end of the year. Matt Caterino is another guy. So I mean, there are guys that they could get work. I don't think they're ready. I don't think there's anybody really ready now. I think that's more of a second half of the season type of thing. Okay. But I do think in August and September we'll see a lot of these guys, and we need to. I mean, the front office needs to see if they can get some of these guys to pan out. And but I think those guys are still honestly months away.
Final thoughts before we wrap up another Talking Twins.
I mean, it's. I just can't believe we're talking about these things. I can't,
I know.
And here's the thing.
I said 96 wins, Jake.
I know. And here's the thing. People who are saying the pandemic has warped your brain. We're only, 25% of the way through the season. No, they have 2.5 months to fix this before the trade deadline. So it's going to take a Herculean effort to do that. That's why I think the season is essentially done in terms of competitiveness, because it's going to be almost impossible for them to right the ship by then. So, do you want to do final record predictions now, or should we leave that for the next show?
Go ahead. You start.
All right, I'll start. Okay, you guys. So I right now on May 16th, 17th, May 17th. I'm going to say they're going to finish 66 and 96. 66 and 96.
Avoid the 100 loss mark. Declan?
66 is the good benchmark. You know what? I'll say they'll hit 70. They'll catch fire and they'll win some meaningless games to give us a tiny bit of glimmer of hope that something could be on the horizon and they'll come crashing back down. But 70 wins. I will say 70.
So you said 66.
Which would still be a remarkable turnaround if they get to 70, in my opinion.
Okay, so Declan said 70. Jake, you said 66 and 96?
66. Yep. Lavelle, by the way, tweeted that 100 losses was in play. He's really embracing his columnist role. I love that.
I will put them, I'd love to say that they'll reach triple digits in losses, but I don't think they will. I'll give them 68 wins. 68. Yeah. Well, here's the thing is they will, because it's baseball, they'll go on a hot stretch, which is going to drive me crazy because the fan base is all going to say, look, they're making a run. They're making some type of run. No, they're not. Here's the biggest problem. We've seen this now too long. The flaws are the flaws. The flaws aren't flukes.
And there's no easy fix.
It's my band name. The flaws aren't flukes.
I love it.
They're not. And they're not. It's not. I mean, Donaldson's getting old. That doesn't mean he won't get hot, but he's getting old. Nelson Cruz bat is slowing down. He's 41 on July 1st. I don't see it would take everything basically doing a 180 as far as the turn, and I don't see it. I mean, Maeda's in the midst of a bad season. A lot of times pitchers just have bad years, don't bounce back, right? So, and look, like the bullpen to me, some guys are going to pop back up and be better, like Colome has of late, but the bullpen's not good. So, like, I don't see the bullpen being lights out. Like, you build there. The two things I'll compare is this. I think bullpens and offensive lines are similar, and you either have a good one or you don't. And it's not like, oh my God, the offensive line 8 games in is going to really improve. No, that's your line. Bullpen's the same way. Like you either have guys or you don't have guys. And the Twins don't have enough guys, and it's their fault.
And they don't have enough prospects at AAA to plug some of those holes.
Yeah, they can't replace guys. Exactly.
Yep.
All right, Jake DePew, we'll talk to you next Monday. Talking Twins, Declan, Judd, we're done. We'll talk to you after the Twins go 1-8 during the week. Not even possible.